All right, welcome back. As always, we love to hear from you, and I appreciate all who send in their comments and questions. I always read them. All right, let's get to some of those right now. Paul writes, what is the most important reason we need to protect the arts?
Our sanity.
Oh, it's true.
Yes, it is an essential part of being a whole human.
Absolutely.
For our whole human health.
You can't be a great city without great arts. That's just the reality of it, because people who have creative brains, the best, the people who want to continue to question life, the world and everything, you need the arts to help you answer some of those questions, because it allows you reflection time to put your phone away and just consider where your place is in life and how you can make the world a better place. So I think it's really, really important.
I think there's been the ivory towers of the arts world sort of felt they had to prescribe this to the public, that this is something the public needed to be whole. And I think what we learned in the last 2 years is that people understand now what it feels like not to have it. And as they return to these concert halls, it's not about us feeding them what we think they need. It's about them embracing who we are and what we can be as a society through the arts. So it's
yeah, absolutely. Like from the radio side, during the pandemic, we got so much listener mail around our programming and what our radio station was providing them. Like it was an unprecedented amount of very heartfelt listener mail.
I don't want to speak on your behalf or yours, but I'm, compared to these guys, a hack, but I play piano and guitar just about every day of my life. I would not have made it through the pandemic if I weren't able to express myself at home, even by myself at night, which I think the other side of the conversation, getting people into the performance side, it's critical as performers. We need that, and I'm sure you guys experienced that through the pandemic.
Well, and one thing we didn't touch on too is the fact that arts education, when funding gets cut to our schools, what's the first thing to be cut? It's the arts.
We see it the way we used to see fat in the diet. Like fat was sort of extra or bad or indulgent, not an essential part of the meal. We now know that we need fat for the brain, we need fat for our joints, and it's actually very healthy, and fat isn't what makes you fat anyway. But it's the same with the arts. Like we just, for some reason in this country, have a blind spot about it. We see the reading, the writing, all these very practical skills that sort of get you from A to B, but as I say, it's part of the whole human, and there's a reason why the science shows that arts engagement, or when you play music, all the parts of the brain that get activated. I don't like to prescribe music or music education as it's good for you, because that's never appealing, but it's not a coincidence that it has this effect.
I would just give you the world view. I don't think it is just Canada. Certainly the same conversations happening in the UK. I've lived in America for the last 15 years. The reality of it is that the arts is not valued because it's not something you can mark. And so much of our educational system is based around hitting targets and marks, and that doesn't actually feed a creative mind at all. Just going back to the point you made, yes, we're definitely getting more diverse casts on stage, and that's a reason I can be hopeful, because once we start to reflect what our city looks like, then people are like, oh yeah, no, it's not just that art form. I went there and I saw a black Violetta or a black Carmen. I didn't realize it was that. So I think there are those opportunities as well, which is to broaden our art form by representation on stage. And we're better off there than we are in the musicians and the chorus, because, again, there have been more opportunities. The big challenges many of the artists you talk about have gone through either enormous personal sacrifice to get there, or have come from a position of privilege, even if they're from a community of color. It's the grassroots, how do we get music education to start many of these kids off on that journey, is that, for me, is the area that we are most vulnerable in.
I think of another piece, which is, often communities can feel reluctant to come into some of these hallowed spaces, right? They're these enshrined institutions. Sometimes, they look, I think of the National Arts Center, and it looks like a big cinder box, right? Could I be
Where's
in that
the
space?
entrance?
Yeah, where's the entrance?
So far to find the entrance.
And how could I feel, like, am I even allowed to be in that space? And so I think it's about all of these things, right? It's seeing folks on stage that look like me, and seeing that I have a space in those places. But the critical piece in this is that this is not a quick one program and then we fixed it. I think we have to think generationally. We didn't get to this place in one generation. And there's so many pieces to fixing this. I mean, if you're worrying about clean drinking water or a house that has enough heat, the last thing you're probably thinking is about how to write a great opera. And so there's a lot of societal kind of work that needs to be done, but representation is, I think, one of those critical pieces.
All right, when we come back, a special performance from our own Kathleen Kajioka. That's next.